With the DCU reboot looming and the comic film having something of an off year, I revisit a film that embodies both qualities. While Batman and Robin may have left the franchise in decent critical condition, this one briefly killed the subgenre as a whole. Let's open up 1997's Steel. The film was directed by Kenneth Johnson, who was previously known for the TV series Alien Nation. The story loosely adapts John Henry Irons' character of the same name, who featured prominently in the Return to Superman storyline, becoming a recurring ally in the comics ever since. The film keeps very few elements from the comic apart from some names, so let's get this started. After a credits sequence of smelting steel, subtle, we open a military weapons test. I will say Mervyn Warren, associated with producer Quincy Jones, does have a decent score going. None of the other crew stand out at me, and I think I've delayed this long enough. We are then introduced to John Henry Irons, played by Shaquille O'Neal. His partner is Susan Sparky Sparks, played by Annabeth Gish. Yet trouble is brewing, as Nathan Burke, played by Judd Nelson, doesn't share Shaq's preference for non-lethal takedowns. The little blowback results in Burke getting court-martialed, Sparky getting paralyzed, Irons going home after stepping down. Also, both Doug and Jerry point this out, but his grandma's place does look like a live-action version of Carl's place from Up. Sparing the running gag souffle for now, only bringing it up because of what the payoff is later. His grandmother is also played by Irma P. Hall. Elsewhere, Burke makes a deal with Big Willie Daniels, played by Steve Matila, to smuggle prototypes in arcade cabinets on the grounds they both make hot weapons. Huh? Never heard that one before. Also, the Batman Forever arcade game shows up in a few scenes. Actually better than 16-bit and handheld ports based on the early and mysterious draft of the script and playing like Turtles in Time with Batman and Robin. Completely hurling thugs right at the screen. There's even a boss with an infamous giant bat, but again ahead of myself. Irons also has an ally in his cousin Martin, played by future rapper Ray J. They did attempt to integrate urban slang, the execution is about as authentic as OG Loke from San Andreas. Also, I have no comment on the pacifism versus force conflict. I have something else in mind for later. Back with Burke and Big Willie, they start testing the weapons prototypes, and Nelson's at least aware what kind of movie he's in, fully committing to the corporate supervillain archetype, of course, of comic films before and since. Let's just say if he offers the elevator, I'm politely saying I'm taking the stairs. That night, Martin and Irons go on a ride along with Norma, played by Temby Locke. As Martin talks about his job, they stumble upon a bank robbery with stolen weapons. The crooks also whoop and hold so much I have expected them to see them on world's dumbest criminals. The losers their ringleader Slats, played by Hill Harper. The LAPD ends up being overpowered, and Irons gives chase in the train yard. Good thing the trains are going too fast. If the Vagos were on board, we never hear the end of it. He catches Slats despite claims otherwise from an extra. The trains are going so slow, the only thing that they're killing is time. Irons tips off Colonel David, played by character actor Charles Napier. The two try to find out the stolen weapons. The Colonel will talk with the NSA while Irons gets to leave from the streets. Irons confronts Slats about last night. He tries to deny everything. I personally won't step to a guy who's 7 feet tall, but that's just me. Big Willie is also setting up online sales for weapons. Quite forward-thinking for an arms dealer. Now, if they could just release Batgirl, that would be great. Back with Irons, he picked up Sparky from the VA hospital in St. Louis, which, Gateway Arch B-roll aside, still looks a lot like LA. Also, even my origin story standards, they are taking a while to suit up. Made by Irons' Uncle Joe, and yes, indeed, the late Richard Roundtree. Yes, the shaft runs to his hand weapon is indeed as hand as you'd expect. I do kind of like the illusion of the folk hero who beat the steam drill. That story always gets to me. Catherine Adair does try her best at the costume design, but there were limitations to be sure. The cape was actually vetoed by the filmmakers, and the bandit ensembles don't look much better. Steel suit designer Greg Cannom is not a name I'm familiar with, but based on subsequent credits on IMDb, he seems to have bounced back. Got his first Oscar nomination for Titanic the following year, his most recent win being for the biopic Vice. It's here with the suit being assembled, complete with other character types and story beats that I mentioned, something dawned on me watching it the first time since I was 11 to review this. This is basically the plot of the first Iron Man, 11 years before it came out. Sparks even serves as one of the guys in the chair. Also, one of Shaq's Superman tattoos, he's a big fan of the character, shows this movie is one of the many odd side effects of how long it took to get the reboot made in between the fourth film and Returns. Let's hope production goes well at the new studio in England on Superman Legacy. Sparks are working on Gear of Her Own, we'll come back to that. Let's just say that two movies that year really wanted to use the Oracle, but DC likely said no. It's not until just shy of the 45-minute mark it still hits the streets of LA. It's as ludicrous as you'd think. Bricks of Warby Mugger, apparently before he became Blade, was considered this movie. What a timeline to imagine. After returning a rich couple's items and taking the escalator, it happens, there's a gang fight which might be between Grove Street and the Bullets. Apparently I just have San Andreas in my head. Of course, his suit is bulletproof, wagging his finger like Sonic at literal shots below the belt. Speaking of Sonic, he pulls out his weapon, which is his own prototype variant, Iron says Hammer Time. Regrettably, the gangsters are not too legit to quit, and reboot or not, DC is going to have to pray to make it today. There is one line from Joe which is pretty funny. I had to wonder if Roundtree improvised it. Well, I'll be dipped in shit and rolled in breadcrumbs. Steel's suit is also electromagnetic, because why not? I have a feeling that won't be the last we'll see of that Chekhov's gun on the mantle. Steel bails when LAPD comes. It also has both a grappling hook and a motorcycle, yet the long jump where he grabs a bike is somehow still less ridiculous than the high kicking through a game of Shaq Fu. That happened, or let it happen. Steel's able to elude the LAPD, even buzzing Martin and his grandma. Still working on souffle and other recipes. Once opened a restaurant of French to Orleans fusion cuisine. Sounds like a more interesting movie, too. Of course, one cop jokes about the Batcave, and I pity whoever paid to see this and Batman and Robin that summer. The next day, Martin starts spreading the word about Steel, and we get reappearances to the Batman Forever cabinet, and one NBA Jam Tournament edition. Of course, Burke catches wind of this, even I could tell when I was 11 that Martin was going to use his bait for a trap. So I have to say, Nelson was much nicer as Hot Rod. Burke meets with Slats in the park, though I don't think a public place enough to hide the fact they're clearly bad guys. Lex and Deathstroke more subtle, and they met on a yacht of vintage wine. As for the infamous eat the hot dog, don't be one line, pretty sure I knew what they wanted to say, and that they could say it with a PG-13 rating. Hour into this 97-minute film, they're still switching with prototypes. I know it's LA, but I have a feeling someone noticed the van they're riding in. Of course, Slats is still making as much noise as possible as are the rest of his goons. The target is the LA Federal Reserve. I gotta say, before how Nolan did opening bank heist with the Joker, don't want to be too hard on the scene given the budget and time limits, but I've seen laser takings easy to follow. I just intercept Slats and his men, and the fight outside the reserve is only marginally more coherent. Half hour left of this, thankfully. Still attempts to escape, can only wonder if nobody told the crew they weren't making a cartoon. After Iron's wounds are treated, Burke starts a weapon sales to a selection of cartoon supervillains. Of course. The LAPD show up to confront Irons and wreck Grandma Souffle again. Oh, that's not very nice. However, during the police lineup, not only do the couple he held vouch for him, but the cop he helped to reserve fight earlier lets him go. Martin has been taken, and Sparks finds out the online weapons auction. He's only had to wait a couple months for supervillain eBay. How much Mr. Freeze's Ice Ray and Bane's Venom on buy it now? Auction closed in 11 hours. Joe gets Irons out for the final battle with Burke. They capture Sparks, and even though they get a drop on Steel, they just continue with the auction. They even follow the Briar Patch and choke with the Madness and Steel's hammer. Not only that, Sparks weaponized her chair. Colonel Data is airborne. Burke kills Daniels and Slats, but he and most of his other men are taken out by Steel and Sparks. I also didn't mention the running gag about the free throws. Comic fans love basketball in-jokes apparently, but its payoff Does get a very funny reaction before the grenade explodes. Her clothes and grandma perfecting her souffle, opening the restaurant she wanted. Good as any as you can get with a 12% Rotten Tomatoes score and 2.9 out of 10 IMDb rating. The film cost $17 million to make, only grossed just over $1 million back, being the lowest grossing DC film to date. Though comic films had ups and downs before this movie, this took a fatal blow for a time. The release of Blade the following year, X-Men in 2000, Spider-Man 2002 helped reinvigorate the concept on film. One of the motives I was to do this review was just the opportunity to be silly. This is a very cornball film, but I had a lot of fun talking about it. Wouldn't even be opposed to seeing the character after the reboot, my first choice to play him being Winston Duke. It's not a great film, but it's my kind of entertaining train wreck, both from the perspective of an 11-year-old and now, 20 years later. My final rating is 2 out of 4. Isn't the only DC character I'm addressing either, especially with the film's equal parts disappointing and fascinating to me. Later.